You've been told for years that manifesting money is all about desire, want it hard enough, visualize long enough, affirm loud enough, and eventually the universe will reward you. But what if that entire idea is backwards? What if the reason you haven't broken through financially is because wanting money is actually pushing it away? I know that might sound controversial, maybe even a little frustrating, but stay with me. This might be the moment everything finally clicks. The truth is, the quantum field doesn't respond to desire, it responds to identity. That's why you can do every technique under the sun and still feel stuck in the same place. And deep down, you can probably feel it, those quick bursts of hope followed by the same old results. It's not your fault. You were taught to chase money when money was always meant to be drawn to you through vibrational alignment. That's the real mechanism behind quantum manifestation, and almost no one is talking about it. Here's the part no one wants to admit: money isn't avoiding you because you're doing something wrong. Money is avoiding you because your nervous system is broadcasting a frequency that says, "I'm not ready yet." And the crazy thing? This can shift in seconds. One emotional adjustment, one internal recalibration, and your entire financial field begins to rewrite itself. Not slowly, immediately. When you understand how to lock into the right money frequency, the universe has no choice but to attract money straight into your reality. So if you've ever felt like there's an invisible barrier between you and the financial life you know you're meant for, you're not imagining it. There is a barrier. But you're about to learn how to dissolve it from the inside out. And once you do, the timeline where abundance flows effortlessly isn't just possible, it becomes inevitable. Ready to see what really controls your wealth on a quantum level? You've probably noticed that the quantum field doesn't budge just because you want something really badly. And honestly, that can feel a bit unfair, right? But here's the twist: desire doesn't move the field, identity does. The universe reads who you are being, not what you're pleading for. That's why so many people struggle with money manifestation even while visualizing until their eyelids twitch. When your identity shifts, reality follows. And that's exactly where the magic of quantum manifestation begins to get interesting. Think about it like tuning a radio. You can crave jazz all day, but if you're on a rock station, guess what you're getting? The same happens when you're trying to attract money while vibrating in lack. You're broadcasting one thing and expecting another. The money frequency doesn't respond to desperation, it responds to coherence. And that coherence is born from identity, not longing. When you shift who you believe yourself to be, even slightly, the field quietly reorganizes itself around you. You've done this before without noticing. Remember when you decided to become a gym person, and suddenly your habits, schedule, and even your grocery list changed almost effortlessly? That identity shift created behavioral alignment. The quantum field works the same way, but instead of muscles showing up, it's opportunities, cash flow, and unexpected pathways of abundance. Identity is the energetic signature that tells the universe, "This is my station now." And the universe, surprisingly obedient, tunes to match your vibrational alignment. If you want proof, look at people who naturally attract abundance. They're not chanting affirmations 500 times a day. They simply assume they're supported, resourced, and capable. This assumption becomes their dominant broadcast. Want to try it? Grab a notebook and write, "I am someone for whom money moves easily." Not as an affirmation but as a description of your identity, like saying, "I am someone who loves coffee." When identity becomes casual, so does money manifestation. Here's a fun experiment: walk around your home for a day acting as if you're already the upgraded version of you, the one aligned with wealth. Notice the micro shifts. You stand differently. You speak differently. You choose differently. That version of you emits a different money frequency without forcing anything. The field picks up on that instantly because the field mirrors identity, not begging. This is why trying too hard often backfires, the trying itself signals lack. What most people miss is that identity is not a mindset, it's a vibrational posture. It's how your nervous system, your emotions, and your subtle signals line up behind the story you believe about yourself. And when these layers sync, vibrational alignment becomes effortless. That's when the quantum manifestation process accelerates, not because you're pushing toward wealth, but because wealth is now the natural extension of who you are being. This is the shift the quantum field recognizes immediately. And it's exactly at this point that something fascinating begins to happen. Your internal identity reaches a level of coherence that quietly prepares the collapse of a new financial timeline. But that's a conversation of its own, because the moment where identity snaps into alignment is the same moment reality bends. So let's move gently into that next layer, where the field stops waiting and starts rearranging itself around you. There's a moment in every transformation when your inner world finally clicks into place, and the quantum field reacts instantly. It's subtle, almost quiet, but unmistakable. I call it the collapse point, the instant your vibration becomes coherent enough for reality to rearrange itself. Most people think wealth arrives slowly, in a straight line. But truthfully, money manifestation operates more like a sudden shift, like a timeline snapping into alignment. When coherence happens, the field doesn't hesitate. It moves now. You've felt smaller versions of this collapse point before. Think about a day when you suddenly just knew something would work out, and it did, almost too perfectly. That was vibrational coherence in action. The universe doesn't respond to effort, it responds to signal strength. And when your signal reaches consistency, you begin to attract money in ways that look mysterious to everyone else. But internally, you'll feel a strange calm, as if the outcome already happened. That calm is the signature of vibrational alignment. Imagine coherence like a laser beam. Most people send out scattered emotional light, worry here, hope there, doubt everywhere. But when your identity, emotion, and body lock into the same frequency, your signal becomes a focused beam the quantum field cannot ignore. That's when quantum manifestation becomes fast. You stop chasing opportunities, they begin orbiting you. Not by luck, but by the inevitability created when energy locks into place. You might wonder how money shifts so dramatically at this point, and the answer is simpler than it sounds. Reality collapses into the timeline with the strongest emotional charge. If your dominant charge is fear, the field stabilizes scarcity. But if your dominant charge becomes certainty, even before the evidence, then the field collapses toward abundance. This is why a single shift in emotional identity can rearrange months of stagnation in minutes. The collapse point doesn't follow logic, it follows signal. Here's a practical experiment to feel the collapse point in your own body. Sit still for 2 minutes and breathe as if you already live in your next level of wealth. Not imagine, embody. Notice how your chest opens, how your shoulders relax, how your mind stops negotiating. That embodied state is not fantasy, it's you tuning into the money frequency of your future timeline. Hold it long enough, and you'll feel a click, a micro shift of certainty. That click is the doorway through which the field collapses. The funny thing is, once you reach this point, external circumstances start responding as if they were waiting for your permission. Emails appear, ideas spark, someone brings an opportunity that feels perfectly timed. People call it coincidence, but you'll recognize it as the aftershock of internal coherence. The outer world is simply adjusting to your new calibration. And right there, you'll understand why the collapse point feels both surreal and oddly familiar, because your energy got there first. But here's where things get truly exciting. Once you know how to reach the collapse point, you can recreate it on demand. And that leads you to a technique most people overlook, one that allows you to swap emotional states in seconds and lock into a frequency the universe responds to immediately. This is where money manifestation stops being theoretical and becomes practical, repeatable, and embodied. There's a technique I want you to master, and once you do, your relationship with the quantum field will shift instantly. It's called energetic substitution, and it works because the field responds to the state you broadcast, not the story you tell. Most people try to change thoughts while keeping the same emotional frequency, which is like painting over a cracked wall. But when you substitute your emotional state, the entire signal changes. And that's where money manifestation actually begins to move. Energetic substitution is simple, you replace the emotional feeling of lack with a feeling that matches abundance. Not by forcing positivity, but by choosing a state that already exists in your emotional library. For example, if you can't feel wealthy yet, substitute it with the feeling of relief or safety, emotions that sit closer to the money frequency. These states create enough coherence for the quantum manifestation process to respond. It's like flipping the breaker that powers a new timeline. Think of it this way: the universe doesn't understand words, but it's fluent in vibration. When you shift your emotional posture, even slightly, the quantum field recalibrates around you. That's why the technique works almost immediately. If you've ever been in a bad mood and suddenly laughed at something silly, you've already done emotional substitution. You swapped one signal for another, and your entire reality felt different. Now you're doing it intentionally, and that creates leverage. Here's a practical example you can try today. When you catch yourself worrying about money, pause for 10 seconds and ask, what feeling can I step into right now that's closer to abundance? Maybe it's gratitude, stability, or even curiosity. Then shift your body to match it, shoulders back, breathing deeper, face relaxing. This somatic alignment creates vibrational alignment, and suddenly, you're broadcasting a frequency that can actually attract money rather than repel it. 10 seconds can redirect an entire day. Another trick is using memory as a shortcut. Think of a moment you felt capable, powerful, or supported, any memory soaked in certainty. Re-enter that emotional state and let it fill your body as if it's happening now. Memories hold vibrational codes, and when you unlock them, your nervous system sends out a coherent broadcast. This immediately sharpens your money frequency, making energetic substitution faster and more natural. The field responds to repeated signals, and memories help you repeat the right ones. What's interesting is how quickly physical reality mirrors the swap. You might suddenly get clarity on a decision, remember someone you need to message, or feel inspired to take a step you'd been putting off. These aren't coincidences, they're the external ripple of internal substitution. When your emotional state shifts, your timeline begins rearranging behind the scenes. And that rearrangement is the early stage of money manifestation you can actually feel in real time. Energetic substitution becomes even more powerful when you understand the deeper mechanism behind it, the way your dominant signal gets mirrored back as financial events. Because once you start swapping your emotional baseline, the universe stops reflecting your old identity and begins reflecting your upgraded one. And that brings us into the next truth: money doesn't respond to your effort, it responds to your dominant broadcast. You've probably noticed that money behaves almost like a mirror. It doesn't reward effort, intelligence, or even persistence the way people believe. What it actually reflects is your dominant emotional signal. The quantum field is constantly scanning your baseline frequency and producing outcomes that match it. That's why someone who quietly expects abundance tends to find it everywhere, while someone vibrating in fear keeps bumping into financial friction. The mirror doesn't lie, it simply reflects. If your dominant signal is, things eventually work out for me, the field rearranges itself to make that belief true. But if your signal is, I'm always trying to catch up, you'll see proof of that everywhere too. This is the heart of quantum manifestation: you're not manifesting what you want, you're manifesting what you consistently broadcast. And consistency doesn't come from thought alone, it comes from emotion. Emotion is the ink the universe reads when writing your financial story. You can test this for yourself in small ways. Think of a time when you were relaxed about money, maybe after receiving unexpected income, or when you simply felt abundant for no reason. Notice how opportunities felt lighter, conversations opened up, solutions came easier. That wasn't luck, that was money frequency alignment. When your emotional baseline shifts, your environment shifts too. The world bends to match the tone you carry within you. The funny thing is, people often try to manifest from the wrong end of the equation. They push affirmations, hustle harder, visualize more intensely, all while maintaining an inner frequency of doubt. It's like trying to attract money while holding a megaphone that screams, "I don't trust this." The quantum field doesn't fall for it. It listens to your dominant vibration, not your conscious script. If the emotional broadcast doesn't change, nothing outside will. Here's a powerful exercise. Choose a single dominant feeling you want money to mirror, maybe confidence, ease, or gratitude. Hold that feeling for just 2 minutes at a time throughout your day. You'll notice subtle changes first. You make slightly braver decisions, you communicate differently, you stop tolerating things that drain your energy. These micro shifts accumulate into what looks like momentum, but it's actually your new vibrational alignment stabilizing. As your dominant signal shifts, the external financial feedback loop becomes undeniable. People respond differently. Opportunities you once dismissed suddenly make sense. You stop sabotaging the doors already open to you. And you begin noticing synchronicities that feel almost scripted. This is how the universe confirms that your inner broadcast has changed. Money responds not to desire but to emotional authority, your steady, repeated signal. But here's the catch most people never see coming. Even when they understand the mirror, they get trapped in the space between intention and alignment. That gap is where they lose their wealth frequency without realizing it. And unless you know how to navigate that space, the mirror will keep showing the old you instead of the one you're becoming. There's a hidden space most people never notice, even though it controls their entire financial reality. I call it the quantum gap, the distance between the moment you set an intention and the moment you actually align with it. This is the zone where 99% of people lose their money frequency without even realizing it. They set a clear desire, feel inspired for a moment, and then slip back into old emotional habits. And the quantum field faithfully mirrors whatever frequency becomes dominant again. You've experienced this gap before. It's that moment after you declare, "I'm ready for abundance," but your body still tightens when you check your bank account. Your mind says yes, but your nervous system whispers no. And because emotional vibration carries more weight than mental intention, the universe listens to the whisper, not the speech. That's why money manifestation feels inconsistent for so many people. Their intention is aligned, but their signal isn't. The quantum gap is where doubt sneaks in wearing a disguise. It shows up as being realistic, or just double-checking, or I hope this works. Tiny thoughts, tiny hesitations, tiny emotional contractions. But the quantum manifestation process magnifies these micro-signals into macro results. A small pulse of fear can delay a timeline. A small pulse of certainty can accelerate it. This gap is sensitive, and that's what makes it powerful once you learn how to use it. Here's the tricky part, the gap feels uncomfortable because your old identity is dissolving while your new identity hasn't fully anchored yet. It's like stepping from one boat to another with a foot in each. For a moment, nothing feels stable. But this instability is not failure, it's the energetic reprogramming phase. And if you push through it with steadiness, your vibrational alignment strengthens faster than at any other stage. The gap is where you grow the most. A practical way to navigate the gap is to create frequency stabilizers throughout your day. These are small actions or reminders that bring you back to the feeling of abundance whenever you drift. It could be a music playlist, a mantra, a specific posture, or even a scent that anchors the identity you're stepping into. These stabilizers keep your emotional signal consistent long enough for the quantum field to register the new frequency as your baseline. What you'll notice is that the more comfortable you become inside the gap, the shorter it becomes. Synchronicities show up faster. Ideas feel clearer. Opportunities appear in ways that seem oddly timed. This happens because the gap isn't actually a waiting period, it's a calibration chamber. Every time you return to alignment, you strengthen the energetic message that tells the universe, "This is who I am now." And that's when attract money stops being an effort and becomes a natural consequence. The deeper truth is that navigating the quantum gap prepares your system for something even more crucial, holding a higher level of wealth without collapsing back into scarcity. And that brings us to the next layer of this journey, learning how to encode abundance directly into your nervous system so that your body can sustain the reality your mind is ready for. Your nervous system is the real gatekeeper of your financial reality. You can set intentions, visualize timelines, and practice quantum manifestation, but if your body can't hold the vibration of increased wealth, it will collapse back into familiar patterns. This is why people manifest money and lose it just as quickly. Their system isn't encoded for receiving and sustaining abundance. Think of it like installing a high-voltage current into wiring designed for low power. The circuits blow. When you try to attract money while your nervous system is still wired for survival, wealth feels unsafe. Not consciously, of course, but somatically. Your body interprets expansion as threat because it disrupts the baseline it knows. This triggers self-sabotage, emotional contraction, procrastination, or sudden anxiety around decisions. None of this means you're blocked, it simply means your internal wiring isn't updated yet. The quantum field reads the nervous system's signal more loudly than the mind's desires. Encoding money into your nervous system begins with teaching your body that wealth is not a spike, it's a stable state. One powerful exercise is to visualize receiving a financial increase, not as excitement, but as neutrality. Yes, neutrality. When your system stops reacting with shock, tension, or disbelief, you signal the universe that this level of money frequency is normal for you. That normalization is what locks new timelines into place. Wealth flows where the body feels safe. Here's a practical way to do this: sit quietly with a number you want to manifest, maybe $5,000, $20,000, or $100,000. Notice the sensations that arise. Tightness? Heat? Fluttering? Those sensations are your current wealth ceiling. Now breathe into them slowly until your body relaxes. You're not trying to force positivity, you're creating somatic neutrality. Once the body softens, the emotional broadcast shifts, and suddenly you're stepping into true vibrational alignment instead of wishful thinking. Your daily habits can also help recode your nervous system. Doing small things that make you feel resourced, like upgrading a candle, buying fresh flowers, or treating yourself to better quality food, signals your subconscious that you are someone who experiences abundance consistently. These micro upgrades are not about luxury, they're about identity. And identity, as you've already seen, is what the quantum manifestation process mirrors back as physical reality. Another technique is future body rehearsal. You imagine not just the wealth you desire, but how your body would feel living in it every day. Shoulders relaxed, breath steady, chest open, mind unhurried. When you practice this daily, your nervous system adopts the posture of your future timeline. And the quantum field begins reorganizing reality to match your internal structure. The body becomes the tuning fork that reality tunes itself to. Once your nervous system is encoded for higher levels of wealth, something extraordinary happens. A single emotional shift can rewrite your entire financial field. There is one emotion, one vibrational state, that signals to the universe that you're finally ready for the next level. And once you feel it, not think it, your timeline bends almost instantly. There is one emotion that instantly rewrites your financial field the moment you feel it, not imagine it, not recite it, but actually embody it. And that emotion is certainty. Not excitement, not hope, not even gratitude, though those all help. Certainty is different. Certainty tells the quantum field that the timeline you desire is already yours energetically, and therefore must collapse into form. It's the emotional signature of "I already am" rather than "I want to be." And that difference is everything in quantum manifestation. Certainty has a unique effect on your nervous system. It stabilizes it. It quiets the internal noise. It eliminates the micro-signals of doubt that sabotage money manifestation without you realizing. When you step into certainty, your energy stops leaking. You become internally congruent. And congruence is the strongest amplifier of money frequency that exists. People feel it when you walk into a room. Opportunities respond before you say a word. The world treats you according to the vibration you hold. To experience certainty, you don't need proof, you need embodiment. Think of something you're already certain about: your name, your birthday, the fact that the sun will rise tomorrow. You don't visualize these things, you simply know them. Now imagine transferring that same energetic posture to your financial reality. You don't force belief. You let the body settle into a deep, grounded knowing. This is the kind of vibrational alignment that makes the universe lean in and listen. A simple experiment: pick one financial outcome you're calling in, say $10,000. Instead of hoping or wishing, ask yourself, how would I breathe if this were already true? How would I stand? How would I speak? Then shift your posture to match the answer. This isn't pretending, it's calibrating. The body responds first. The mind follows. And the quantum field responds to the body's message long before the mind catches up. Certainty broadcasts loudly. Certainty often shows up not as a high, but as a calm. You don't feel hyped, hypeness is unstable. You feel grounded, steady, almost quiet. This calmness is often mistaken for lack of emotion, but actually, it's the emotional signature of alignment. It's the frequency of done. When you reach this state, you stop checking for signs, because you are the sign. This inner calm becomes the new gravitational center of your abundance timeline. And here's the fascinating part, once certainty stabilizes, the external world responds absurdly fast. Emails arrive. Money flows from unexpected sources. Projects unfreeze. People say yes. Nothing is forced, everything moves. That's the power of emotional congruence. The universe mirrors certainty with speed because certainty collapses probability into form. It's the emotional command that tells the quantum timeline exactly where to land. But before certainty can stay consistent, you'll need to learn how to neutralize the tiny vibrations of scarcity that creep in unnoticed and destabilize your field. Because these micro-signals are the only things strong enough to pull you out of alignment, and mastering them is what comes next. Most people think scarcity shows up loudly, panic, bills piling up, fear of the future. But the truth is, scarcity begins as a whisper. A micro-thought. A tiny muscle contraction. A barely noticeable emotional dip. And these micro-vibrations are powerful because the quantum field picks them up instantly. They act like static interfering with your broadcast. That's why neutralizing scarcity noise is one of the most important skills in quantum manifestation. Scarcity noise sounds like harmless thoughts. What if it doesn't work? Maybe I'm asking for too much. Should I play it safe? These seem logical, but they weaken your signal. They pull you out of vibrational alignment by a few degrees, just enough to distort the frequency you're sending. And because the universe mirrors your dominant broadcast, not your temporary intentions, these tiny doubts influence money manifestation far more than people realize. Here's the tricky part, scarcity noise usually shows up when you're closest to a breakthrough. The mind tries to protect you from expansion by pulling you back into familiar patterns. It's not sabotage, it's survival programming. Your nervous system wants the known, even if the known is scarcity. Recognizing these micro-signals is the first step in reclaiming your money frequency. Once you see them, they lose their power to dictate your timeline. A powerful tool to neutralize scarcity noise is what I call energetic interruption. The moment you notice a micro-vibration of lack, you interrupt it physically. Shake your hands. Roll your shoulders. Inhale sharply. Stand up. This breaks the neurological pattern before it spirals. When your body shifts, your signal shifts. And the quantum field responds to the new signal immediately. It's like rebooting your energetic system in real time. Another simple but potent technique is naming the scarcity thought out loud. When you say, that's scarcity, you step out of identification and into observation. Observers don't vibrate in fear, they vibrate in clarity. And clarity is a form of abundance. You can even make it playful, nice try, old programming. Not today. Humor disrupts the emotional charge. This is how you reclaim authority over the broadcast you're sending into the universe. You can also create a rich replacement thought, a statement that instantly lifts your frequency whenever scarcity noise shows up. Something like, money moves toward me, or the universe always fills the space I open. Say it calmly, not desperately. Calmness is what the quantum manifestation process recognizes as truth. This replacement thought acts like a tuning fork, bringing you back into the signal you actually want the field to mirror. Once you learn to neutralize scarcity at the micro level, your energetic stability becomes almost unshakable. And that stability is what allows you to maintain the frequency long enough for your new financial timeline to collapse into form. Because the real secret isn't intensity, it's consistency. And that's exactly where we're heading next. Everyone thinks manifestation is about intensity, powerful visualizations, emotional highs, bursts of motivation. But the truth is far simpler and far more counterintuitive. The quantum field rewards consistency, not intensity. Holding a stable frequency is what collapses a new financial timeline, not dramatic spikes of inspiration. Those spikes feel exciting, but they fade. What shapes your reality is the signal you maintain long enough for the universe to trust it's your new baseline. That's the real engine of quantum manifestation. Think of frequency like a heartbeat. When it's erratic, nothing flows. When it's consistent, everything stabilizes. Most people switch between abundance and scarcity 50 times a day, hoping one strong visualization will override all the micro wobbles. It doesn't. The universe mirrors your dominant state, not your temporary peaks. This is why people sometimes attract money and then lose it. Their emotional broadcast was not stable enough to sustain the timeline they activated. Consistency is not about being positive all the time. It's about returning to alignment faster each time you wobble. Even professional athletes don't stay perfectly focused, they just recalibrate instantly. That's what you're learning to do with money manifestation. The moment you notice fear, you shift. The moment you sense doubt, you ground. The moment you feel scarcity, you neutralize it. This return to center becomes your superpower. It's what strengthens your money frequency beyond the typical thresholds. Here's a practical technique: choose a home frequency. Maybe it's certainty, calm confidence, or quiet abundance. Throughout your day, check in with yourself the same way you check your phone battery. Where's my signal right now? Not judgment, just awareness. And if you're off center, breathe back into your home frequency. This stabilizes your internal broadcast and shows the quantum field exactly which timeline you intend to hold as your reality. A stable frequency shapes behavior too. When you stay aligned long enough, you stop making fear-based choices. You stop rushing. You stop chasing. You begin acting like someone who trusts their timeline. This identity shift creates better decisions, clearer intuition, and more grounded financial moves. You're no longer operating from scarcity, you're operating from abundance. And the field responds to who you consistently are, not who you occasionally hope to be. You'll also notice that life becomes less dramatic. Money flows more predictably. Opportunities don't feel random anymore. You're not swinging between everything is working and everything is falling apart. This emotional steadiness is the hallmark of someone in true vibrational alignment. It's the difference between someone who manifests occasionally and someone who manifests consciously. Consciously, repeatedly, reliably. And once consistency becomes your new normal, the entire manifestation process transforms. At that point, you're not just collapsing a timeline, you're sustaining it. And sustaining a financial timeline is where the real quantum mastery begins, the kind of mastery that turns manifestation from a moment into a lifestyle.